Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Welcome to the May 28th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. I'd like to start with the pledge, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, free and justice. A few announcements. Emergency exits are to your left and right on the sides of the room. Restrooms are out the door and to the left. Please be sure to sign the attendance sheet, which is on the table behind you as you entered the meeting room. There are business cards also with contact information for the planning department, should you need that. Also on the back table are copies of any resolutions that we have prepared to be read tonight, along with the agenda. If you all could please silence your cell phones or turn them off so you don't interrupt those who are presenting before the board. And please take any conversations you may wish to have amongst yourselves out the room and close the door behind you so that it doesn't disturb the progress of the meeting. Thank you. We have 2 meeting minutes for approval, the 22nd of April and the 13th of May. Does anyone have any comments for Lisa? Bill?
Nope.
Joe?
Nope.
Scott? Okay. Motion for approval of both?
So move.
Joe moves.
Second.
Al moves. Al seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried 4-0. Not sure if Ernie's going to make it tonight. I hope he's feeling better. The correspondence received, Marcia Senges, regarding Bluestone Trail. Board and committee updates. Drew, is he here? Nope. Okay. Keith, planning?
Good evening, Keith Maynard, Project Manager for the Town of Victor. Your next planning board meeting is Tuesday, June 10th at 7 p.m. New on the agenda and for public hearings, Hergesell Fence, which is at 118 Fishers Road. Applicant is requesting approval to install a chain link fence to mark the northern property line. Number 2, the Warner Pole Barn at 8018 Taylor Road. Applicant is requesting approval to construct a 2,400 square foot barn for personal use. The Keystone Fireworks Tent at 7161 State Route 251. Applicant is requesting approval to set up a 20 by 40 tent and operate a retail sale of sparkler products for 4th of July holiday. Operating hours would be from 9 to 9 daily, increasing to 10:30 p.m., increasing to 10:30 p.m. on July 3rd and July 4th. Applicant is requesting approval until 2027 for that one.
Keith, is that at the mall site or up at,
So it says 251, but I think it means 96.
Liquor store.
Yeah, so it's right on the edge of the village.
oh, okay, right near the village. Okay.
Sorry.
Got it. No, we've had several of them recently, so.
The next one's TNT Fireworks Tent, which is 40 Square Drive, which they're moving from where Harbor Freight, where they were in the parking lot before Harbor Freight was, over to Square Drive. So up by
Bed Bath & Beyond
Yeah.
parking lot.
Oh, okay. Yep, that's the one I was thinking of earlier.
applicant is so for that one, up by Bed Bath & Beyond, applicant is requesting approval to set up a 20 by 40 tent to operate a retail sale of sparkler products for 4th of July holiday from June 20th to July 5th. Operating hours will be from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. And then the last new one is Norbit Solar Farm is coming back. This is the Site 1 on Main Street Fishers that you reviewed 2 years ago now, year and a half.
Prior to the moratorium on solar
Correct.
farms
Correct.
in town.
Applicant is requesting approval to develop a 4.428 MWAC solar energy facility on 34.93 acre parcel consisting of forest and meadowland. Plus any carryovers that you've
Okay.
been dealing with.
Any questions for Keith?
Okay.
Great, thanks,
Thank you.
Keith. If you have a copy of the agenda this evening, there are several removals. Number 2, Hazelton Enterprises. Number 6, Timberview Estates. number 7, Element, and number 8, Chick-fil-A. The rest remain on the agenda. So 7 instead of 10. First one up is closed public hearing, but it is a continuation of the Colette Berm site plan, 852 Brownsville Road, owner Mitchell Colette. Applicants requesting approval to construct a 10-foot-high earthen berm to combat noise and visual pollution emanating from traffic on I-90. Good evening.
Yeah, how you doing? Mitch Collette, homeowner, just requesting, as you stated, the 10-foot berm, soil made, in order to hopefully obscure some of the view and sound and absorb some of the impact of the traffic on that stretch of highway from the house.
Were there any changes to the plan, or,
But our engineer, my engineer through DDS, got with your engineer and went over some notes, and we did originally need a variance, but then that was determined that we did not need a variance.
okay.
But other than that, I believe everything is checked off for what I need to come up with, and
So the plan remains as it was being presented at the last
Correct.
meeting that we
Yeah.
met? Yeah, okay. So that meant you'd have to move some of the stone, I think?
yeah, we have to move some of the area off of the property, and
Okay. All right. Wes, did you want to follow up with that?
Yeah, we did get an updated response letter from DDS companies in the revised plan set here, or plan sheet. One of the indications, response to Labella's comment number 2, notes have been revised on the plans to indicate appropriate specifications and placement procedures in accordance with the town's design and construction standards, in that the fill material on the site, which does not meet these standards, will not be used for berm construction. Is that material, the fill material on site that's not going to be used for the berm, is that going to stay on site, or is that going to go off?
I've got a spot on the backyard side of my hill that I intend to use some of that, and it's not of a cementatious material, so we have to go, 2 inches or smaller has to be the size of the stone, I believe.
So it's rock, it's not...
It's bedrock.
Yeah.
I acquired the material and the soil from a pool company that was digging up a pool. Originally, they were supposed to send soil, and they landed into bedrock. So they wound up, so, yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and I see that the updated plan indicates that, and the response here indicates the rolled erosion control product proposed for use on the site has been revised to biodegradable coir blanket with jute netting for the steep slope of the berm.
Correct.
Okay. And the location of the berm is also now outside of the easement that was at the front of the,
Currently, yeah,
Parcel.
I have to bring it in towards the property line a little bit closer.
okay. So that addresses Labella's comments. There's, a couple other responses here too, but I don't see any particular issues with what we've got in front of us.
I don't have any questions. I remember we spoke about this last time.
Yeah, okay. Al?
No, no questions.
Joe?
No.
Okay. No, I think Wes filled this in, and you've made it pretty clear where we are with it, so I don't think we have anything else for this review, so,
I do have a question on the proposed resolution.
okay.
On the agenda, it says the public hearing is closed, and on the resolution, it says it was open tonight. If you look at item number 4.
Change that to close.
Yeah, the previous board meeting, yeah.
So is that the case? The public hearing was closed at the previous meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, good catch, Joe. All right, so we can, Lisa's already modified it on her copy, so we'll go ahead through the resolution and move this forward. So, for the Colette Berm site plan, 852 Brownsville Road, application 8SP 2025, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 8 of them, with the change on number 4 for the date duly noted. Whereas the Town of Victor Design and Construction Standards, Section 27218 states that site grading should be no steeper than 1 vertical on 3 horizontal, and resolved that the planning board waives the town's design and construction standards to allow a slope steeper than 1 vertical to 3 horizontal, And be it further resolved that the application of Mitch Collette, site plan entitled Collette Berm, site plan dated March 12th, 2025, received by the planning board March 18th, 2025, and last revised May 19th, 2025, planning board application 8SP 2025 be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to chairman's signature. Number 1 is standard. Number 2, that a comments in a letter dated April 18th from Abella Associates be addressed. Ongoing conditions. Number 1 is standard. Number 2, all erosion and sediment control best management practices shall be maintained until the project is complete and stabilized to protect neighboring properties. Number 3, that an as-built record plan be provided indicating permanent practices installed and recorded the topography of modified areas. And number 4, the design professional be required to certify the completeness of the selected design when construction is finished. And be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. So on the resolution, do I hear a motion for approval?
Move.
Al moves,
Second.
and Joe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carried 4-0. So
Thank you.
move forward, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good.
Item 2, Hazelton is off. Item 3, Willow Rise field change. These are townhouses on 1008 to 1010 Banjo Run, owner NVR Incorporated. Applicants requesting approval for a waiver from the design and construction standards to allow a driveway slope of 12.16% on Lot 5 and 10.61% driveway slope on Lot 6, both of the Willow Rise subdivision. Town of Victor Design and Constructions allow a maximum grade of 10%. Applicants also requesting approval for the 2-unit townhome for a constructed finished grade of 586.8, where the approved plan called for finished grade 584.5. Good evening.
Evening. Steve Callan, Project Manager with Ryan Homes. How you doing?
You might have to speak a little louder to.
Steve Callan, Project Manager with Ryan Homes.
Thank you. Do you want to explain the need for both of these?
Yes. So the original plans were not to have to exceed the design and construction standards. We did not go into construction expecting to change the elevations to this extreme. We identified as we were finishing up, getting finalized grade, had Pastoral Associates out involved for the final part of it. The front garage elevation, which is the finished grade, is where we exceeded that 12 and then that 10.5. The rear grades all match the original site plan. Does not change anything for the grading or anything else on that end. The goal was, when we were looking to manipulate the grade, was to be within all the standards and not deviate from the original site plan to achieve the rear walking grade instead of a proposed retaining wall area, all the areas that they were speaking of. And with the customer's input, we were looking at the side and the rear yards, and then as we got closer to, we saw that the variation from the excavation where we ended up higher than we originally planned to be.
So the finished grade is for the 2-unit, both 5 and 6, right?
They're both the
Just
same
raising
level
whole-
at the garage weather lip, correct?
Okay. All right. Questions from the board, Scott?
So the finished floor was built too high.
The top of wall, we dropped grade as we acknowledged that we were higher with that. So where the finished elevation of the house was, and then where we poured the slab at was higher than the original plan.
What was the originally approved?
On the site plan, it was, site plan 584.5, typically within a foot of that of either 583.5 or 585.5 is where where we've always seen for a variance from the original site plan. We did not identify this until well after, when we had come out for the final instrument survey for where our total measurements were. Again, like I said, when we got started, we were not looking to exceed the measure that we have.
Was the original percentage high to begin with? Was it?
It was high to begin with, because out there, unfortunately, all driveways are right around 35 feet long, which doesn't give you much when it comes to getting the slope percentage. But everything at the time was below that 10% grade, or right at the cusp for that first one. That's a steeper point.
Approved site plan. That's what you guys originally.
And these are the only two in the entire subdivision that have this particular issue?
Correct, yes, sir.
Is the subdivision almost completely done?
I would say right now we're 50% under construction right now.
Okay. So
Then three
so this
buildings-
is an,
sorry.
this is an anomaly of sorts that
Yes, sir.
we wouldn't expect to see you in here again then with a similar issue?
Correct. I've been building in the Victor area for 11 years. It's the first time I had to walk in this room. So it's not something that we practice regularly. It's not a common practice, or do we expect to see that again?
Those are my questions.
Okay, Al?
No other questions?
Joe?
I'm curious how the homeowners would actually negotiate the grade. So you're going to come up from the street, you're going to hit the sidewalk, and then you're going to go up from the sidewalk to the garage. So is that going to cause issues with things like scraping?
It's been a heavy conversation with the homeowners as well as the developers pouring the sidewalks. They just poured those this morning after Matt Heilman and Craig Cummings were out on site. As we've adjusted those, make sure everything was within the tolerances of what the design standards were. Where they have it designed, it's not going to be a blunt stop as you transition from the flat of the driveway to going up. And there's no scraping or anything involved. We also had Parrington Paving, who's going to be doing our driveway prep for that after the grade was established for the sidewalk, and met with both homeowners that to be able to manipulate that driveway without damage to their vehicle.
The sidewalk on the one driveway, I think, so the design and construction standards, I believe, say it's supposed to pitch toward the road at a 1/4 inch per foot. Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve. And I think they worked it out with Craig that the one driveway is like a 1/2 inch per foot.
The one
In
driveway.
both cases, they pitch slightly more sideways towards the road with the sidewalk than our design and construction standards allow, just so that, for what you're saying.
I wasn't directly involved with that conversation with Craig, so I don't want to quote that, but he met with them out there.
Yeah,
and-
they had a very specific.
And before they poured, Craig measured all that to make sure it worked, so that way the grade was able to, transition from the road to the driveway without any damage or troubles from there. After that point, it will transition back to the original slope, but it's just there to get through that tight radius that the driveway approaches.
So it's it's only what, a 40-foot section of sidewalk that might be not ADA compliant, the cross slope? Is that what you're saying?
Honestly, I think it was just in the driveways, like,
Just those- so-
it's such a slight difference
Yeah.
that, they were splitting hairs trying to do their best to make.
Okay. As long as the rest of the sidewalk's all 1/4 inch cross
Correct.
slope, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
It was mainly, I remember looking as it was coming up from the gutter itself, and then making sure that top was not, a roll hazard at all.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I had a similar concern to Joe's regarding the
So-
grade in and,
So the highway superintendent has taken a look at this then? Is that what
I don't know who the highway superintendent is. I just know the gentleman on site that oversee any of that, Craig Cummings, and then also the construction inspector, as well as Matt Heilman, construction inspector with Farmington. We're both out there.
So then, the other question I've got, I guess I could use help from Wes, because the justification for this is issues with the storm management area. And I'm wondering if the issue is really the removal of the cost of building a retaining wall versus, running a bulldozer across and changing the grade. So is there really an issue with proximity or in relation, the property's relationship to the stormwater management area? That seems to be the justification in the cover letter, right?
Yeah, I did see the justification in the cover letter. Interesting question. I'm not sure I have an answer for that question. I know that the retaining wall was removed as part of the project, and I was kind of curious. Does the removal of the retaining wall somehow eliminate any type of flat yard area behind that unit or behind those two units?
So there's it does taper down. As we met with both homeowners, they had concerns with being, maintenance behind there as well as trip hazards. And then, as we talked about with the grade, they'd be able to walk and utilize that grade as they're looking to do, because it is elevated, is looking to do decks off the backside. So we talked about all of that at the rough grade after framing, so they could see where their measurements were off of the finished floor for the first floor elevation for if they were to do a deck or stairs or patio, because they do have limited backyard property off of the townhouse itself.
Okay. I'm good.
You're okay?
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
No, I don't think so, given that, it's a built condition. I don't know whether the planning board would have afforded, the developer a waiver from the design and construction standards initially. But, you're kind of limited with what you can do here. And I don't
Well,
think we. I don't
the
think we have any
foundations are
further.
in, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the house, is it mostly constructed? The
House is
shell, everything?
House is complete, yes, sir.
And, yeah, sort of lowering it,
Yeah.
the garage at least.
We did drop the garage at one point. We saw where it was, that's how we ended where we were, based off so to try to modify that, and to try to achieve everything is the steps we took as far as we could. And that's why we're standing here today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't,
I don't think it's a public.
yeah, it's not a, this is more of a revision.
Could I just ask one more question?
Yes, sir.
Is the slope that we're talking about, the slope as measured from the gutter to the garage floor? Is that the slope?
Garage floor to the gutter, yes, sir. Yeah, to the front weather lip of the garage, to the edge of the gutter.
Okay.
So do you have a slope break right at the face of the garage, 12.5% or whatever it is, slope break?
We haven't finished that off yet until we can't change the height of where that is, but as far as the ease of as you come up off of the sidewalk, we're waiting for them to get that finished, and the Barrington Paving, like I said, they came out during that process, and they have a plan in place so that way you can get up and easy without
Yeah.
having, so that's operational without any injury or problematic in the future.
As long as they're not putting a Lamborghini in the garage, you might be
Lamborghini
okay.
might be tough, yes. No. For everybody's been spoken to, customers, there's no surprises that are, going to be about as they come out there. So I've been involved in the process as we've identified it in more detail recently. So that's all been discussed and identified.
Okay. All right, I have nothing further. And if the board's okay, we have a resolution drafted to approve this. So for the Willow Rise driveway slope waiver at 1008 and 1010 Banjo Run, application 13FC 2025, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 3 of them. Now therefore be resolved that the planning board conditionally approves the requested waiver to the portion of the town's design and construction standards driveway design requirements that would otherwise limit a maximum driveway slope of 10% to allow for driveway slope of 12.61% at 1008 Banjo Run and a driveway slope of 10.61% at 1010 Banjo Run. So do I hear a motion for accepting this? Joe moves.
Second.
Al seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried 4-0. So you're all set.
Very good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next item is number 4, Marshall Site Plan. This is an open public hearing. It says 7232 Valentine Road, owner Todd Marshall. Applicant is requesting approval to construct a single-family home on lot number 5 of the Valentine Meadows subdivision. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Brendan Marks of Marks Engineering here representing the Marshalls. Unfortunately, the Marshalls weren't able to be here tonight. He is active military, so he is away. So this is the vacant lot number 8 of, lot number, what did I say? 5, sorry, of the
Okay.
8-lot subdivision on Valentine Road. It is the furthest northeastern lot. This lot here. So this lot was not part of the development plan for the original, for building lots in the original subdivision. This was sold as a vacant lot without building lot approval. The Marshalls purchased this property and has decided to build a new home there. They're proposing a two-bedroom, single-story home with a detached garage, kind of barn dominium style home with no basement. The house will be served by a public water from the street, and also will have a private on-site wastewater system, septic system that will dispose of the wastewater. For the subdivision process, during the subdivision process, we did identify wetlands on the overall site, and this lot does include 2 of those wetlands. The wetlands are non-jurisdictional, and they were reviewed for the subdivision process. We had provided a wetland specialist letter for the subdivision, talking about the wetlands and the delineation. The site has some infiltration practices for the stormwater coming off the new roofs. In the back, there'll be a 60-foot infiltration trench, allowing some of that water to infiltrate into the ground. And also there's surface drainage swales around the back side of the building to divert water away from the new structure. This driveway will be a new driveway that connects to the existing shared driveway that extends from Valentine Road.
Would you call the infiltration trench a French drain? Is that similar?
Yeah, you could
just-
call it a French drain. Yep. It's got a pipe in it, so it might be more of a curtain drain.
Okay. Questions from the board? Joe, we'll start with you.
I'm looking at the letter on May 6th from Frank Mueller, the code enforcement officer, comment 3, talking about the proximity of the easement for the wetlands to the dwelling, and that there should be a clear understanding of what's allowed and what's not allowed, where the boundaries are. And the response is fine, that says it's going to be discussed in a pre-construction meeting. I just think that probably should be documented. That's one of the things that I think is pretty easy. You know, if I'm the homeowner, you know, I'm not necessarily thinking about that. And if the boundaries are just marked by posts that could be, you know, covered by vegetation at some point in time, it's going to be relatively easy. So I just want to be sure that conversation takes place and is clearly understood, and I think by just documenting it in some fashion is probably the way to do it. Other than that, it looks good. I think I'm in agreement with everything else.
Okay. Would you have a suggestion on how you might document that to the,
So the easement was recorded under the property, and it has been provided to the applicant, so they are aware of that. But I would be glad to have that meeting and present the easement again, and then have everyone discuss it and have minutes from that meeting.
That's good, because it'll be on the deed, but that stuff gets, you know, put in your safe and stays there for 30 years. So,
yeah,
Understood.
okay.
thank you.
Al?
Yeah, just one question, since I don't recall the original site plan approval and this was an unapproved building lot, does the addition of a additional driveway trip the maximum number of drives on a,
Well, this would make it 4 on this particular driveway, right? And you are correct, it does.
We'd waived when
Yeah.
we had the subdivision.
Yeah, we
We'd
did
waived.
address that as part of
Yeah,
the final
original.
preliminary and final subdivision. It's
Right.
just we didn't have an engineered design for this particular lot, but we did address the driveways.
okay, very good, I'm good then.
Yeah, I think it was kind of left open in case someone wanted to buy and attach, you know, adjacent home wanted it as an additional land. So leaving that as an option.
Okay, I'm good.
All right, Scott?
Susie, can you go to the next slide? Please, nope, back there. That might
Okay.
help recollect.
That's what we approved
We're right
originally.
there.
I guess the only question I have, I remember when the subdivision first came in, there was a proposal, I think, relative to traffic to clear some trees around that curve there.
Yes, correct.
Still supposed to happen, or did it already happen and I just didn't notice it?
It did happen, yes.
It did happen?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I guess I didn't notice. But I have no further comments.
Okay. Wes, any engineering comments?
We did issue a letter May 23rd, just the other day. It's a type 2 action. What we're looking at here is a type 2 action, and we should also note that a neg deck was issued on the overall subdivision on March 22nd, 2022. Let's see. The shared drive access easement and agreement, we were just suggesting a modification to the call-out indicating, that currently indicates right-of-way to be maybe 60-foot private access easement, so as not to confuse that it's any type of dedicated right-of-way. Just some minor comments in addition to that. Let's see, we did talk about the wetland. The site notes currently state that the construction site is not within 100 feet of a wetland as delineated by New York State Environmental Conservation Law, Article 24. And we just asked the applicant to confirm that the project complies with these updated wetland regulations as of January 1st, 2025. And let's see. Yeah, we wanted to be sure that, given the proximity to the two wetlands, verify the capacity of the soil at the proposed infiltration trench to infiltrate water. And specifically on a geotextile, prior to submitting the plan for signature, update the reference in detail to the brand name Mirify. And then also keynote 7, 8, and 9. We weren't able to find those on the plan.
They were carried over from the main subdivision that we've since addressed.
Okay.
We have a letter response that we just haven't got to you yet.
Yep,
Or
understood.
you haven't seen yet.
Understand, okay. And is there any other further conversation or discussion needed about coverage under the general permit? Construction general permit?
So, yeah, this came up from William Emlich at 5:30 this afternoon. This wasn't part of the original plan for development. These were vacant, non-buildable lots, so they wouldn't be covered under that original Speedies permit that covers the 4 lots that were scheduled for development.
Okay, I don't have anything else.
Okay, this is a public hearing. It's open. Anyone here would like to address the applicant or the board with questions regarding the subdivision, please step up, name and address. Feel free. Now's the time. Susie, anything online? Okay. Seeing no interest, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
I'll moves.
Second.
Joe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. Any other comments before we read a resolution? Okay. We do have a resolution prepared for this. Marshall Site Plan, 7232 Valentine Road. Application 14 SB 2025, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact. There are 9 of them. Do we have a note that we closed it, the public hearing was held and closed? Okay, held a public hearing May 28th. Okay, that's good. Sorry. So now therefore be resolved that the application of Todd and Amanda Marshall, site plan entitled Marshall Site Plan, drawn by Marks Engineering, dated April 4th, 2025, last revised May 22nd, 2025, received by the planning board April 21st, 2025. Planning board application 14 SB 2025 be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. Number 1 is standard. Number 2, that the comments in a letter dated May 23rd, 2025 from Lobella Associates be addressed. Number 3, comments in a letter dated May 28th from the stormwater manager be addressed. And number 4, that all conservation easements show placement of markers on final plans. Ongoing conditions that site plan comply with Town of Bickford design and construction standards for land development, including section 4. Number 2 is standard, number 3 is standard, and be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. Do I hear a motion for approval of this application?
I'll move it.
Scott
Second.
moves, Joe seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried 4-0.
Thank you.
Welcome. Number 5, Barber Site Plan. This is an open public hearing, 1240 Heather Lane, owner Kyle Barber. Applicants requesting approval to construct a single-family home and a detached garage. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Kyle Barber, so I'm the owner and the architect for the project. And my wife and I bought this parcel on the corner of Dryer and Heather Lane, and we hope to build our single-family home there. We're pretty excited about it. It's going to be Passive House certified, and we've got some cool things we want to do with it. So I don't know if you need more of an intro than that.
Well, if there's anything unusual that you need to highlight or you'd like to highlight, you don't have to, but that's a good time to do that.
There's a catch basin to the south in the drainage easement on the property. So there's a 70-foot wide drainage easement to the south, as I'm sure you all are aware. And so we're hoping to sheet drain the property toward that catch basin, as well as tie into it with storm, which we'll be applying for permits through the highway department for that work, as well as sheet draining some to Heather Lane, toward Heather Lane. And the way that we've developed the grading, we've been careful. There's a existing berm on the west side of the property. We've been careful to limit that berm, but maintain it enough that we're not sheet draining onto the neighbor's property to the west. Because we were, despite what it said on our survey, we were informed that retention pond on their property is actually not a retention pond. It's just a wet part of their yard. So we're going to do our best not to drain into that area.
That's the one that's on the southwest corner, says dry retention pond just off the side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was labeled as dry retention pond on the survey that we hired out, but it is not a retention pond, I was told.
Okay. If you need to point something, there is, I think, a laser up there for you to use if you like.
Oh, interesting.
Blue one. So,
There you go. That right there.
yeah, okay.
Not a retention pond.
All right. I will open this up to the board for questions. Joe, want to start?
So in your letter of intent, you mentioned Passive House Institute US. I'm familiar with LEEDs, but I'm not familiar with FIAS. So I think it's kind of neat what you intend to do, but I'm not sure, does it compare to LEEDs standards at all, or?
That's an energy standard. Les, do you?
You want me to answer that?
Applicant.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
It's, I think it has similar, it comes from a similar place maybe, but it's very different. So LEEDs is like a point system, based, you sort of, in a way, you kind of purchase your way or work your way into a number of points, and you can sort of trade points for other points. Passive House originally was a German standard. Long story short, U.S. version split off. It's regional, and it only allows a certain amount of annual heating and cooling loss, or heating and cooling loads, and you achieve that by high levels of insulation and high levels of air tightness. So I have a really tuned energy model that's very specific to the design. And so we fine-tuned how much insulation we have and also how much air tightness we have to only have a certain amount of heat loss throughout the year.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, I learned something tonight.
Yeah, good. Al?
Yeah, just curious, is a one-story dwelling, two-story,
Single story.
single story? And do you happen to have any elevation drawings that could be shared, or is that still work in progress?
In terms of grading or finished floor or?
Yeah, just what the aesthetic view
Oh,
would.
oh yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to share on whatever the best way to do that is. I have filed for a permit, so the full permit set is in Tom Sterone's hands.
And then the second one was a point, I know it came up in some of the documentation, but there was a partially built foundation, I think, that ultimately was abandoned and some work had to be done there. So are you confident that you can deal with that situation appropriately?
Yeah, yep, it was about 13 years ago. So our assumption is that the material that was removed was put back. So it should be native material, and it's had 13 years to settle. So we're not overly concerned, but as we're digging, we're gonna keep an eye on that.
That's all I had.
Okay. Scott?
Does your house have a basement then?
No, slab on grade with a frost wall.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. You know, I think it's a very well-done site plan.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm also kind of surprised, I don't think we see an architect and an engineer partnering to do their home in Victor on a site plan submitted to this planning board. I certainly have never seen it before, but certainly a high-quality
Oh, thank
product
you.
you've got here.
Thanks.
So I have no questions.
Okay. Nor do I, other than to say, kind of echo Scott's comments. We're both engineers, so we kind of like this stuff, so especially with the concept you're sharing with us, and, wish you the best with it.
Thanks.
We do have a public hearing, I believe, so if there's anyone, neighbors or otherwise, that have any questions for the applicant, please step up, name and
I
address.
actually do have a question.
You do?
If it's appropriate now, yeah.
Sure, if you can share it before.
So so we got comments on fire from Robert Graham for the fire service review. One of them suggested that we're required to sprinkler the detached garage, and I had requested a follow-up clarification based on my interpretation of one of the exceptions, and I don't know if that was ever received or looked at, because I don't think we're required to, based on my interpretation of the document that he sent.
I did pass that along to the fire marshal. He was in conference all last week.
Okay.
So he's back in the office. We were off on Monday.
Gotcha.
So I can follow up with him tomorrow.
And I only mention that because if he disagrees, or if that's not acceptable, then we'll have to request for a waiver from the zoning board.
Okay. We can certainly work with a condition on that, with our approval. I'll call it a detail, but it's not something you'll be able to advance forward until you resolve it. So, and that can be resolved through either a waiver or discussion with the fire marshal.
Okay.
So understood where your position is. So with that, if you have any comments, step right up. Name-
My
Just need your
name's
name.
Leo Wazilecki, and I live at 1241 Heather Lane right across the street.
Okay.
And I've had a parking lot for 30 years over there. Thank you. My only question is why the request for an unattached two-car garage, because in the covenants it's already allowed. So what is different that he needs to ask for a resolution on that, when in the original covenants, which I have a copy of here, says, you can do attached or unattached garage?
I would say personally, if it's an unattached, if it's a covenant, it may not be a town thing. So you still may need required by a town. Am I accurate with that, Wes?
So my understanding is that he's not necessarily seeking, the site plan application itself, it depicts the proposed arrangement and configuration of buildings and improvements on the site. It just so happens that they've chosen to do a detached garage instead of an attached garage. So
You're not doing both, though, right? No. Just, okay, that's fine.
yeah, so it's not necessarily that he has to come here to seek approval for a detached garage. He needs approval for the overall site plan, of which the detached garage just happens to be a part of. So,
Do you know the square footage, and what are you planning on putting up?
The house is.
Why don't you come on up and you can capture that conversation at the mic?
Sure. The house is a little over 1,800 square feet, and I believe the garage is 600 something. It's a two-car garage.
And is it going to be equal elevation, or why? I guess I don't have a picture of what he's putting up. I don't have any objections. I'm just curious. I got to look at it every day until I go. And I'm just curious, that it's going to be acceptable to the rest of the architecture in the neighborhood. And that's my only concern. And without seeing the picture of it, I don't know that I have an objection or not.
And I think the board also was interested to see what the architecture was, and perhaps if you can share some images of what the elevations would look like. I think Lisa can make it available online to anyone who's interested, and we could get it that way.
That's fine.
So if you could send stuff to Lisa, then we all can see it, and so can your neighbors.
That's my only concern or only question.
Okay.
Just curious what's going on. Yeah, sure. And I look forward to having that neighbor. Thanks.
I love it when you have friendly neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's starting out that way. I have to live with Al, he's my neighbor.
Well, not everything works out great. Okay.
He was there first.
Okay, how did I do that? Anybody else from the public have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing no others, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
Second.
And Scott, I'll move, Scott seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carried 4-0, public hearing is closed. Any other questions, comments from perhaps Wes, if you had anything?
Yeah, we did issue a letter late yesterday afternoon. Nothing too significant. We did talk about that this particular action would be a type 2 action under seeker, which would conclude the seeker process. We talked a little bit about the lot access and the lot being a corner lot, and the driveway is proposing to access the minor road, which is consistent with the town's access management standards. Then some technical comments related to the septic system, leach field diversion swale, septic system expansion area, tree and stump removal. Nothing to get into the weeds on, but something that they can address as part of the response to our comments. Nothing that would hold up,
Sure.
you proceeding if you desire
Okay.
to.
All right, well, then if there's no objection or other questions or comments, we do have a resolution. For the Barber site plan, 1240 Heather Lane, the application 15 SP 2025, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, or 11 of them. Now therefore be it resolved that application of Kyle and Ann Barber, site plan entitled Barber Site Plan drawn by Ann Barber, licensed engineer dated April 29th, 2025, received by the planning board May 1st, 2025, planning board application 15 SP 2025, be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to chairman's signature on the site plan. Number 1 is standard. Number 2, the comments in a letter dated May 5th, 2025 from the fire marshal be addressed. So there's the condition regarding that discussion. Number 3, comments in a letter dated May 6th, 2025 from code enforcement officer be addressed. Number 4, the comments in a letter dated May 6th from construction inspector be addressed. And number 5, that the comments in a letter dated May 28th, 2025 from Labella Associates be addressed.
That should be dated May 27th.
May 27th? Okay. Ongoing conditions. Number 1 is standard, number 2 is standard, number 3, town and highway work permit be obtained for work occurring in the town's right-of-way. Number 4, that a hold harmless be obtained from the town board prior to any work in the easement. That's a different one. And number 5, that a building permit be obtained prior to the start of construction. And be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. I just had a question about number 4. Is there an easement, that you're talking about the drainage easement? Yeah, so that, okay, you're protecting the town. Keith, you want to enlighten us on that too?
Yeah, it's town board action, so he just has to, which I think you're aware of, has to go to the town clerk and apply for a hold harmless, because he'll be installing, I believe it's a pipe that's going to
Oh.
that catch basin.
Yep.
So he's bringing actual infrastructure into the town's easement.
Sure, and that's, you mentioned that early on in your presentation this morning, this evening, so.
Just a formality.
Okay, all right, great, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, so with that clarification and that reading, do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll move.
Al moves,
Second.
and Scott seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the town. Okay, timber review was removed, as was Element and Chick-fil-A. So item 9, preliminary application, Nikoloff subdivision. This is also an open public hearing. This is Blazy Road, owner Keith Nikoloff, Applicants requesting approval to develop 42.4 acres into 8 lots. I think it's now 7 lots, correct? With driveways coming off of Blazy Road. This is a second step of major subdivision. Sketch plan was acknowledged complete August 27th, 2024. Good evening.
Hello, Planning Board members. I'm John Hotto of Land Tech Surveying and Planning, 1105 Ridgeway Avenue, Rochester. Here representing Mr. Keith Nikoloff for his proposed 7-lot subdivision on Blazy Road, consisting of 42 acres. We're continuing on with the project review and approval process. Since the last meeting in April, we have received approvals from the New York State Department of Health and Monroe County Water Authority for the water main extension south from Daly Road along the east side of Blazy Road to serve the 4 southern lots. They have again been revised to avoid the 100-foot buffer of the state wetlands at the southeast corner of the project site. This information has been forwarded to LaBella Associates and Ms. Boughton. Revised plans were also sent out to LaBella and the town. We're still expecting some comments from LaBella Associates regarding our last set of revisions sent to them. So that's where we're at right now. We've complied with all of the reviewer comments to date. We're still wondering about the waiver for the 4 lots on the one drive for the 4 southern lots. And again, we have gone down from 8 lots to 7 lots as a result of some septic difficulties up on the northern edge of the property. And I just wanted to reiterate that the open space we're providing on this project is 50% of the overall parcel is required. That's like 21 acres. And this plan is providing open space of 22 acres to date. And that's been consistent for all our submissions for the project.
Thanks, John. I guess any questions before we move ahead looking at the seeker? Part 2?
Yeah, so I do have a draft seeker part 2 prepared here that we can go through. It's going to take a little bit of time, as you know, with the long EAF. I do want to bring up one of the images that I've got from the plan set that was most recently submitted. I want to talk about the wetland boundary, right? Because that was something that we had been waiting for, some feedback from New York State DEC on the freshwater wetlands program, whether or not they were going to take jurisdiction over some of the wetlands. Could you share my screen? That would be good. Okay. What you see here on my screen might be very similar to what you have, what Susie just had up. So what I've got here is this wetland down here in the southeast corner is what DEC was taking jurisdiction of, and the buffer area. So they've moved a lot of the proposed improvements, or what were previously proposed improvements, outside of that area. You'll see on this particular plan, kind of looks like Christmas decorations with the red and the green. But you'll see a lot of the red, which was the previous plan, grading plan, and all of the red there is no longer part of the current grading plan, so as to stay out of the 100-foot adjacent area. And you'll also see up here at the top of the screen the eliminated lot and grading and associated infrastructure with this particular house. So that kind of shows the 3 lots here and the 4 lots here. You'll also see on the right-hand side of that drawing a difference between that common driveway coming straight out onto Blazy Road versus having a little curve here. And I think that's also in an attempt to stay away from the 100-foot buffer area, right? So, but I wanted to zoom in here a little bit and just talk to maybe the applicant or get some feedback and maybe some potential attention to the area on this lot 2. So I've kind of traced the boundary of the wetland based on what's shown in the site plan, and then the 100-foot up here, I've got the boundary for the buffer area. And it just kind of, we know that the wetland kind of heads south, right, to a certain degree, but we're not quite sure where it is. But the 100-foot buffer area may extend into some proposed improvements, whether this infiltration basin and the proposed stone check dam. So you may need to adjust the design there, or if there's any information that you could provide to help us, confirm that that's outside of the wetland buffer, that would be helpful. I don't know if they've got other points on the wetland delineation that you'd be able to show on the site plan to help confirm that, but that's something that we'll need to address going forward. And I know stormwater has been a question, right, throughout this process and throughout this review process. And one of the things that we had asked the applicant to do at some point, not necessarily as part of preliminary, initially we asked them to do some infiltration testing as part of the preliminary subdivision. And they've done perk tests and deep hole tests for sanitary, right, for on-site wastewater. But the testing for infiltration practices to manage stormwater is a little bit different. And because we've had some questions surrounding stormwater and the impacts that stormwater may have on-site as well as potentially downstream, off-site, I did ask one of our engineers to come to the meeting tonight to share a little bit about what we look for in terms of a stormwater design, what we review on behalf of the town of Victor to help confirm that we're meeting New York State requirements. And so I'd like to invite Mary Stebline to come to the podium, if she wouldn't mind, just to give a little bit of background of her profession. Doesn't have to be her specialty in stormwater management, stormwater design, and then also share maybe some of her evaluation and insight on this particular project. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Wes. I think you kind of explained a lot about what I'm going to now describe for you. But as Wes said, I'm Mary Stebline with Labella Associates. I'm a licensed civil engineer. I'm also a certified professional in erosion and sediment control with 25 plus years of experience. And stormwater is my focus. I'm a subject matter expert within the company and for New York State. And part of our process for reviewing any application that comes in that has a stormwater component is to compare it to all of the known standards that the state has in place. So compliance with the construction general permit, compliance with the New York State Stormwater Management Design Manual, compliance with the standards and specifications for erosion and sediment control, and because the town is in MS4, also compliance with the MS4 general permit, which is another DEC permit. And our objective there is to ensure that water quality and water quantity controls are in place and that meet those standards. DEC wants you to maintain pre-construction hydrologic conditions, so try to replicate the existing conditions when you've developed a site and provide groundwater recharge. So my process is usually to go through all the calculations provided by an applicant and determine if it meets all of these standards. And if there are questions, right, we work through those questions with applicants. And in the end, we can complete the MS4 acceptance form that then gets passed along to the DEC to allow these projects to get their coverage under the construction general permit. So it's a well-documented process, and it's objective. It's always compared to the same standards. I guess that's our process. If there's any questions about that, I'm happy to address them. Wes, is that?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I guess one of the questions I might have is just to touch on, would you be able to touch on a little bit more what we would look for in terms of pre-construction versus post-construction, what was the rate? It wasn't necessarily the volume, but the rate?
So the requirements
Rate
are
of
to
runoff?
attenuate the peak flow rate. So
Yes.
you're looking at, well, when we're talking about water quantity control, sorry, we're looking at the 10-year and 100-year storms. So you're looking for attenuation of the peak flow rate from your pre-construction condition to your post-construction condition. You're trying to not increase that rate. And so you're providing the designer is providing stormwater management practices that help achieve that, whether it's using green infrastructure techniques in order to recharge the groundwater, keep water in place where it lands. In the case of the Nikolov subdivision, the proposed practices are infiltration basins, which are one of DEC's preferred practices. As you alluded to, Wes, it needs to be confirmed with additional infiltration testing. But there is some preliminary indication that, based on the percolation testing for the septic systems, that the soils that are there may be conducive for infiltration tests, though also the presence of wetlands may temper that a little bit. In other subdivisions, you might see wet ponds or, some other practices. There's a menu of selection options that DEC provides.
Okay. Yeah, if any of the planning board members have any questions.
I guess I had a couple of questions. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
When I look at the project, I think with the infiltration areas that are designated that have yet to be confirmed, and with the 100-foot buffer now on the southeast corner of Lot 1, it seems to me there are a lot of practical constraints that go along with that, intermixing those infiltration areas, should they be acceptable, which has yet to be proven. It just seems like we're putting a lot of things together in a very water-sensitive area. And relative to the DEC guideline, which I think you're following for the infiltration testing, is that correct? Is that what you're going to have them do?
That's the intent.
Yeah. I mean, that's much more difficult test to conduct in order to achieve positive results than a standard perk test, which tests the upper 18 inches or so of the soil. So I guess my question is, as a practical matter, do you see kind of what I see in terms of a practical difficulty in achieving all these lots, in particular lot number 1, when I saw the green hatch that Wes had put on the screen there? I mean, where is the real usable area of that house? And that's just an estimated house location. That's not the actual house. It's just a conceptual footprint for right now. So I guess my question is, do you think the approach is correct that we're seeing here in terms of dealing with stormwater as presented, waiting for these results to come in, and also being constrained by wetland buffers such as that?
It's a great question. We have brought up these concerns as part of the preliminary subdivision discussion. The standards are set up to allow for approval of preliminary design information to then be confirmed during final. But that's certainly something for the planning board to consider.
I guess part 2 of the question is, should we proceed into the seeker analysis with some of these items still outstanding, or what's the feeling on that?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? It's typically what we usually do, right, is we have that information as part of the design at preliminary. In this particular situation, well, in any situation, the design and construction standards do allow for those specific infiltration tests to be done as part of the final subdivision plan, right? So we do have a conceptual idea based on the perk test that the soils may provide a medium to do the infiltration. We could go through seeker part 2 and part 3 and make it theoretically, we could do a determination of significance and move forward. And then if for some reason at the final design, at the final subdivision stage, if for some reason the infiltration testing doesn't work, maybe there's an engineering measure that can be substituted or added to the plans to address that, address the lack of infiltration, or maybe the final subdivision plan, because of the infiltration results, maybe there's a reduction in number of lots, or maybe just the design changes to some degree. So you would have maybe a public hearing. If the design changes significantly enough, you could have a public hearing during the final subdivision. Well,
And I guess, I appreciate that comment. I guess in my mind, I think that this issue has been raised since the beginning of the project by the neighbors. And I think it's an important issue, and certainly with a site like this, there's a lot of hydric soil too. You wouldn't have wetlands if you didn't have hydric soil, and hydric soil holds water. So it's not going to infiltrate very well. But that all being said, I think it's kind of a fundamental environmental impact. And if we're getting into the environmental impacts associated with seeker, it would seem that we're kind of doing a condition negative declaration then, if we were to punt, so to speak, on that issue. That's my opinion. I think we need more information, is I guess what I'm saying, and I think these are significant site constraints.
So Wes, you also pointed out that on the southeast corner of Lot 2, southwest of Lot 1, that there's, like, you haven't extended the green area to the property line of Lot 2 yet, south. So can they do any work in the buffer zone, like what they're proposing here, if that zone crosses there?
they may be able to do work, but they would need, I think they would need to get a DEC wetland permit.
Okay.
And so part of the new wetland regulations that came into effect in January, right? So they've done step 1 and 2, right? They've number 1, they've submitted their parcel for a JD determination, and we've gotten indication back that DEC took jurisdiction of this wetland. They've done a delineation already, right? So that was step 2, and they actually had that done before step 1. DEC also, as part of their wetland review, they ask to see, you submit, or an applicant submits their delineation and also their project plans, engineering plans, for them to make a determination as to whether or not there's a need for a wetland permit. And that submission is done to the regional office versus Albany. So you get, at least you get a somewhat of a local review of the project plans in Avon at the regional office. So I don't know whether it would require a DEC wetland permit or not. I suspect maybe it would.
Have they heard back from the DEC yet for?
I don't think my understanding is that they haven't submitted to the DEC regional office. I could be wrong.
Because that could change, honestly, both lots.
That's right.
I mean, to me, putting the house so close to the buffer, maybe it's allowed, but it seems like, how do you?
As long as they're outside of the buffer, that's okay. My understanding is that they wouldn't need a wetland permit.
I guess that's, so what you're saying is that's kind of the point of the buffer, is as long as you stay out of it, whatever's in it, it can't be a certain thing, like you can't have a house in the buffer, you can't have other physical features, but, it can be graded and just up to it.
Relative to that buffer too, as a practical matter, if you were to hand these plans to a site contractor and say, build this house, put that leach field in, do you really think that he's going to be able to adhere to that line there on the drawing and stay out of the buffer? I mean,
That's kind of what I was looking at from
Yeah.
a practicality standpoint.
and let's say that he can somehow. What about the future owner, assuming the owner builds a house exactly like that, which is a stretch, but let's say, for the sake of discussion, the owner does. Is the owner going to stay out of the buffer?
I mean, they're required to.
Is that realistic to expect?
I would expect at a review of the building permit, if it's different from this site plan, would have to be done,
Yeah.
and they would have to say, yep, you're still out of that zone, of that 100-foot buffer zone with whatever reconfiguration they're doing of a different size house, or,
Yeah.
maybe it's square instead of long, or, 2 stories instead of 1 or something. But it still would have to be outside of that zone, that
Yeah.
buffer zone.
Yeah, I think in theory you're right, but I think in practicality, probably won't happen.
Well,
That's, and I guess that's what kind of jumps out at me with this project, is that we have a lot of things that we're moving around to shift here, to move this there. And the septic systems make it even more complicated, I think, in keeping the separation from the septic, from the infiltration areas, from the wetlands, from the wetland buffers. I mean, it's like a shell game of things you're trying to avoid consistently.
Are those septic systems, Wes, designed, do you know, already from perk tests? Or are they sort of a,
Yeah, they've done their perk tests, depot tests, and I think they're an engineered design.
okay,
Yeah,
so the limits of them fit outside of the buffer zones and all that, and we're confident that they're going to stay outside?
Yes, confident that they're going to stay outside. This one, right, on lot 1, that's going to stay outside of the buffer,
Yeah.
as it's shown.
Okay.
We've made comments on the septic system. We do owe, to be fair to the applicant, we do owe them some updated comments, which we have been working on. A number of them have been addressed.
Okay.
So,
So to Scott's question, does it make sense to go through part 2, the EF? And if it does, fine. We can still do that.
yeah, so that's really going to be up to the board, right? If you want to consider going through part 2, I've got a draft here. We can pick through some of these questions. Maybe some of them we're not going to be able to answer, but maybe you will.
Okay.
So.
Any other comments or questions from the board, while we're discussing this?
No, I'm, certainly willing to plow through as much as we can and affirmatively answer those that we can, and those that we have to parking lot, then
You can sit.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
So, yeah, we can move ahead with,
Yeah, why don't we have, the applicant may have something to. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, maybe I should.
First of all, I just want to thank Mary for the good summary. It was awesome. Regarding the buffer, we've complied with the buffer. It is hypothetical, this building. This house can be moved back to this corner easily. In terms of staking this out in the field, I mean, we've got the most accurate survey equipment you can possibly imagine, and we will stake this out every 5 feet, and it'll be a silt fence, so nobody's going to go into this buffer area. We don't want to get a fine.
That's fine.
Typical construction, it's totally practical. This is a very common situation. Now, this over here, I can revise this whole site plan in about 3 hours to avoid your observation about this. And my question is, I think this was a good catch. I appreciate that, but I don't understand why it takes 3 months to have somebody catch this when we could have had this revised. I could have revised this morning for the meeting. It's just my personal opinion as a taxpayer of the town of Victor. And I don't think Mr. Nikoloff is being treated fairly on this either. We've been very patient. We've complied with every comment. Now we're getting hung up on a buffer that we just discovered a few months ago, which can be, again, accommodated very easily with this house adjustment.
I think you're hearing questions about it. You are starting to answer them, so I can work with that. I think the board can too. If you're confident that it's not going to be an issue down the road, we can still discuss all of this, and if there's any
It won't
outstanding
be an issue,
questions.
believe me, it won't be an issue.
Okay. Wes, did you have
So,
something else?
just one comment. I take exception to the comment that it has taken 3 months for you to find out about this potential issue with the buffer down here. We got these updated plans with the buffer on them on May 8th or May 9th. So at best, we've had 20 days to respond, right? If we got those on May 8th or May 9th.
Well, it's not
And
just
it was a
this.
result, it was a result of the New York State DEC response on the wetland submission, right? We didn't know 3 months ago that there was going to be a 100-foot buffer here. We only found that out recently.
But we had a pretty good idea.
Well,
Now, it's
let's
just, it's
talk
not
about
just this.
official, John, so
It's
let's-
not just this. It's, you know, I sent emails out numerous times, maybe 3, like, do you have any concerns? You know, requests for information. What about this? Nothing. Okay, so that's been over the last 20 days. So I know you're busy and stuff like that, but Mr. Nikoloff has some objectives as well. So I'm just saying.
I think you're hearing that the board is okay with moving ahead with Part 2,
Okay.
John.
Yeah.
There's some question about it. We're certainly
I
want to make
understand.
sure we can air all of those concerns.
I
Mine and
understand.
John and Scott's and Al and Joe, of course, have comments. So I don't think that we're being unfair to advance this with still some unknowns out there. So, I mean, you do have some testing you need to do for the final, so
I
it
understand.
originally asked for that, but you wanted to hold off and.
Well,
so
no,
we're
it's
doing
been
that.
it's been a weather issue.
Yeah. So,
Everybody's
okay.
kind of backed up on that.
Okay, understood. So we're trying to work with you, so. If you like.
Thank you. Keith Nikoloff, owner of the property with my wife. Appreciate everybody being with us again and your patience. I just want to take the temperature down a little bit and appreciate everybody's comments. I think we're all working toward the same goal. The only comment I want to make is along the south side, that's a tree line there, and so whatever needs to be done there will be easily accommodated. It's very dry. It's a trail, and there's serious tree line between everything there, so that I'm not worried about the south side. I do want to comment to Scott's comments about moving things around. From day one, all we tried to do is be compliant. And as you said, we've had the DEC just come to the table and saying these needs to change. So really, the reality, the only thing we really changed, Scott, was the going to 3 lots rather than 4 in the north part. And that was to it because it was a perk issue, and we can always revisit later, but right now, we just want to leave it in to get to the next level. And so I think what John is trying to say is, yeah, the southeast corner is an issue, and we'll work with the board however we have to get that right. If it's moving the house back, eliminating a lot, whatever we need to do, we're prepared to do that. And if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to give you my comments back as a 20-year-old landowner across the street, 68 acres across the street, these 42, and so we've been around for a long time in this area. We know what's going on, and I'm always grateful to answer any questions you might have. So I've been quiet to this point, but I'm going to be quiet now again and just say thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, John was able to respond to a number of the comments and questions we had, so that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right, so Wes, why don't we go ahead and run through Part 2?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if there's any, it's still an open public hearing, so if at the end of all this, there are questions still from the public, then, we'll take those.
Okay.
If any of you are here for that, and then we'll move on to the next application, so
Okay.
go ahead.
All right. Apologies in advance if this takes a little bit of time. So Part 2 is the responsibility of the lead agency, in this case, the planning board. Even though I've filled out a Part 2 draft for your consideration, it's not my document, it's just what I've kind of filled in for you, but you're welcome to change any of the responses. So question 1 has to do with impact on land, and the question is, does the proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site? And I've indicated here, yes. In all of the sub-questions there, I've indicated no or small impact, right? So for example, A, the proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet, no or small impact. I believe, my understanding is that the depth to the water table in some areas is greater than 3 feet.
But is it less than 3 feet in some other areas?
I did look at the soils map, and I've got an indication that it's greater than 200 centimeters.
Okay,
So, and that's generally away from the wetland locations.
that's 2 feet and change.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
So the proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. I've indicated no impact there. There are no slopes in that range. The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface, no or small impact. Proposed action may involve excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material, no. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. No or small impact. The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal. No or small impact. So there's things that are in the design plans that help minimize or avoid these impacts, right?
Okay.
Could I just make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Relative to item A, the pending infiltration testing, I think that would be your best identifier as to whether you have 3 feet or whatever your depth is. My understanding is the groundwater fluctuates up and down through the year. Might have a high one right about now.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the correct answer for that is yet to be determined.
Yeah, okay. Noted. All right, so,
Question 2, the impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique, unusual landforms on the site. I've indicated no.
right,
Impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. May affect, right? So I've indicated yes, it may affect, the project may affect. We know that there are wetlands on the project site. A, the proposed action may create a new water body. It's indicated no or small impact. Really not confident that those infiltration areas would be classified as a new water body.
yeah. They're meant to drain, right?
Right.
Okay.
The proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more than a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any water body. No impact there. The proposed action may involve dredging. No impact there. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater tidal wetland or in bed or banks of any other water body. I've indicated no or small impact in that regard. So they are staying away from that DEC wetland. You've got the 100-foot buffer. They're staying away from that. E, the proposed action may create turbidity in a water body, either from upland erosion, runoff, or disturbing bottom sediments. No or small impact. The proposed action may include construction of one or more intakes of withdrawal of water from surface water. No impact there. We're not going to be withdrawing any water. The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for discharge of wastewater to surface water. That's going to be no impact. The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for did I just read that
They
one?
did.
I did.
Go to H.
H. The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. As the applicant stated, right, they've got silt fence, and that's likely going to minimize or avoid that siltation.
Need a SWIP for this, I assume?
Yep.
Okay.
The-
Be stormwater pollution prevention
The
plan.
proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. I've indicated no to small impact with regard to water quality. J, the proposed action may involve the application of pesticides or herbicides in and around any water body. I've indicated no or small impact. And K, the proposed action may require the construction of new, expanding, or existing wastewater treatment facilities. No or small impact. Number 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater, or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. So I've indicated yes here, and based on the sub-questions, they're all I've also indicated no or small impact for all of those.
And feel free to summarize just as you did with other sections, if you don't
Okay.
think there's something specifically needed to be highlighted,
Yeah.
unless the board has a question on any of them.
Effect on groundwater, I mean, really, what we have is a septic system that could potentially leach in, but it's being designed to the standard that's required, so
Yeah, and
mitigated.
Scott, I think that's a great point, and that is the only reason that I check yes for the answer to number 4, is just the septic systems and the leach fields. Number 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding. I've indicated yes here, and there's and the reason why is if I go to Encore, I know you guys don't see my screen, but there's right where that jurisdictional wetland is in the southeast corner, there's draft 2023 FEMA 100-year flood zones that are just touch the corner, that southeast corner where that wetland is. And so that's the reason why we check yes here.
But it says the proposed may result in development on land subject to flooding, but the land that's being developed is not on that parcel that is subject to flooding, correct? I mean, that piece is subject to flooding, but they're not developing that little bit of it, correct?
That's correct.
So
The development is away from.
definitely minimal, if not no, in my mind with that question. So I appreciate the, bringing up that
Diligence.
element, yeah, so.
Okay.
But I think it's safe to say there's a very minimal impact, if any. So, okay, that's my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, like, for example, the proposed action may result in development in a designated floodway. There is no floodway there. The proposal will not be developing within the 100-year floodplain. It also appears that the development will not be within the 500-year floodplain. Proposed action may result in prior modification. Yeah.
Yeah, most of those are.
Move on to number 6.
relevant.
Just one question, Wes, on point E, bullet E.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, right, what, I guess, evidence do we have that we have any determination if there's an impact, small or moderate?
Yeah, so the question E, right, the paragraph E, the proposed action may change flood water flows that contribute to flooding. You know what we could do? We could use the EAF workbook. Why don't we take a look at that? Question 5. And this is E. The online EAF workbook is very helpful. If I can find the right question here. E. E. Okay, E, the proposed action may change, all right, similar to question 5, D, any project that alters or increases surface water runoff has the potential to contribute to flooding, both on-site and at downstream, upstream, or across stream locations. In addition to channeling, creation of impoundments, or increased or altered stormwater runoff, activities such as removal of stream-side vegetation, changes to riverine wetlands, or changes to stream and riverbanks can also contribute to flooding. Inadequately sized culverts or bridges can also clog and impede the passage of floodwaters. Let's see, review the answers and analysis of part 2, question 5, A, B, and C to understand any flooding issues. Analysis. So they've got a few bullet points in here. Are there any streams, rivers, lakes, and any designated floodplains on the project site or nearby that could be influenced by the project? Is there any stream side vegetation being removed? Will any changes to drainage ditches or existing channels occur? Are any wetlands being impacted that could change water flow downstream? Is the project impacting any regulated floodplain? And where will surface water flow from the project site, and will it affect off-site streams, rivers, or lakes?
That's a question that might be best answered by Mary.
She walked right back in again.
Right on cue.
So here's a few examples of what are characterized as small impacts. Proposed projects that include minor changes to the flow patterns, but that do not direct large volumes of water into different locations, are likely to have only a small impact. Examples would be construction of any structure in a 100 or 500-year floodplain, but it is built above the base flood pursuant to floodplain management regulations, land uses that are maintaining or increasing pervious surfaces, land uses that do not change the flow of water or drainage patterns off-site or into surface water bodies that have not received that volume of stormwater before, and minor clearing and grading activities. So moderate to large impacts are characterized, according to the EAF workbook, as they could occur in one or more of the following circumstances: construction of large expanses of impervious surfaces within the floodplain, clearing or grading, creation of walls or berms that alter the flow of water or drainage patterns, alterations to surface water bodies within a designated floodplain in a manner which alters flow or drainage patterns. So those are some examples.
So what they're doing is to mitigate that impact by putting in the infiltration basins, right?
Yeah, the infiltration practices are a design element that are intended to minimize and avoid those impacts.
Mhm.
Yes.
So that's,
would agree.
you could address that question by saying no or small impact because of the things that the developer is proposing.
Yeah.
Should they prove out with testing that they need to do for final, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Al, anything?
No, I'm comfortable
okay?
with that, just with all the sensitivity around, right,
Yeah.
you know.
No, good
quote,
point.
Flooding on the east side of
Oh.
Blasey Road, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure we gave that due diligence.
Good comment.
Yep, okay. So number 6, right?
Number 6, impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. I've indicated no. 7, impacts on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in loss of flora or fauna. I've indicated yes here, right? Because there's going to be some vegetation that's removed, pasture. Maybe it's not pasture land, but some agricultural land. The proposed action may cause a reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species. I've indicated no or small impact. The proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by rare, threatened, or endangered species. No or small impact. Reduction in population of loss of individuals of any species of special concern. No or small impact. And the proposed action may result in a reduction of degradation of any habitat used by any species of special concern. No or small impact. Yes. Yeah. No or small impact for also impact to the capacity of a registered national natural landmark, of which there are none. Sort of designated significant natural community. We don't have a designated significant natural community here. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not any of these that are applicable, really,
Yeah.
or at least if there are, it's very minimal.
Okay.
So,
So number 8, impact on ag resources. I've indicated, yes, there's going to be an impact, right? But any potential impacts appear to be small, either not to be there or they are small.
the property has been farmed in the past, I believe.
And it's I think the property is in an ag district, and that's another reason why we would check yes here.
Yeah.
But no
Okay.
or small impact for agricultural resources. Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. I've indicated no. And basically, the example question there is the land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. So that's why I checked no. Impact on historic or archaeological resources, I've indicated no. 11, open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. I've indicated no. Impact on critical environmental areas. There are no critical environmental areas as defined by New York State DEC in the town of Victor, so we check that as no. Impact on transportation. have indicated that the proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. Have indicated no. Transportation systems are going to remain as they are. There won't be degradation of transit access. So impact on energy, number 14, yes, there's going to be an impact on energy. Each of those items are going to be no or small impact, right? We're looking at a 7-lot residential, single-family home subdivision. So there's not going to be a large impact to energy. Number 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. We've indicated yes. And basically, we've indicated yes here because during construction, we know that there's going to be some noise, and there may be some light as a result of, maybe there's going to be a lamp post out in front of the residence. But any of the noise increase as a result of construction, that's going to go away after construction is complete. So no or small impact with regard to noise, odor, and light. Number 16, impact on human health. We're almost done. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. Indicated no. Number 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with the adopted land use plans. I've indicated no here because it is consistent with the adopted land use plans. The property is zoned for the proposed project. There's no changes to the zoning, and it's consistent. And number 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character, and I've indicated no, it appears to be consistent. Okay.
So a number of these we've said no on, or minimal, and I just wanted to have everyone understand that what constitutes moderate to large impacts, they're talking large subdivisions, 50, 100 houses, commercial uses, large energy use, megawatts of electricity, that sort of thing. We're talking 7 homes with very minimal amount of energy usage and impact. So that's why we look at these as no or small impact. And I just thought I'd highlight that so people would understand the purpose of this particular assessment is to make sure that we aren't having a big impact, but big impact means dozens of houses, or more. So anyway, thank you, Wes. Very thorough. I appreciate that. Does the board have any questions or comments regarding this?
Other than I think Wes did a very effective job.
Okay.
Okay. And one of the things that I might suggest is we've had some commentary with regard to a couple of these comments, and it's for the purposes of seeker and record keeping. It makes sense in my mind to maybe write this stuff up as part of an attached narrative for you to be able to take action and have it be defensible going forward. So I guess as we've had this straw document prepared for today, I think at the next meeting, what we would do is, if you were comfortable with where we're at with seeker, is have that draft part 3 and narrative, and have you prepared to make a determination of significance. But I know the public hearing is also still open.
Yep, and we do have, we have had numerous comments about elements of this site plan that will be addressed moving forward as well. So there's that opportunity for the public to see as well. As Wes said, it is open to the public right now, and if there's anyone here that has a question regarding what we just went through, or the revised plan, or any other comments, now's a good time. Otherwise, we're going to finish up part 3 next time, I believe. So, seeing none for now, I guess we can keep it open and move on to the next meeting and make a resolution for preliminary plans at that meeting. So, okay. So that's what we intended to do this evening, I believe, and the public hearing is still open, right?
Do you want to have
John, do you have any other last comments before we move on? Okay, good. So we'll see you at the next meeting and finish our review of preliminary plan. Thanks. Okay, last but not least, Bluestone Trail. Formerly 7200 Rawson Road, owner 7200 Rawson Road LLC. The zone PDD development. This is the final application requesting final approval of develop 59 for-sale townhome units subdivided division on 18.5 acres. Project will consist of 2 private roads off the north side of Rawson Road. This will be third step in a 3-step process for major subdivision. Preliminary plan was approved February 25th, 2025. Floor is yours. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Ryan Destro from BME Associates. Here with me tonight representing the applicant, Rawson Community LLC, is Jim Barbado and Bill Areno. As mentioned, we are seeking final subdivision approval for the Bluestone Trail project for 59 for-sale residential townhome lots. Just to recap from our last appearance before this board on February 25th, at that meeting, the public hearing was closed, the seeker negative declaration was issued, and preliminary subdivision approval was granted as well. As you recall, one last item of concern was regarding the fill that has been brought onto the site over the past decade or so. Based on this board's input, the applicant had a geotechnical engineer, foundation design PC, analyze the on-site fill areas. In summary, the geotechnical report states, and I quote, "In conclusion, the fill soils present on the site are clean, free of organics and debris, and suitable to withstand the proposed design loads for the floor slabs and roadway. We recommend that strip footings and structural walls for each townhouse extend through the fill and bear on the native soils. Based on the proposed grades, the footings, structural walls at the outside rear walkout elevations will likely bear on the native material for after excavating to the required frost depth, and the footings, structural walls on the uphill side of the buildings will require deeper excavations to reach the native material." The report also makes recommendations for observing the mass fill placement and the backfill operations by an independent testing agency, and also recommends certifying that the work has been performed in accordance with the geotechnical report. With that, we feel that the geotechnical report should satisfy this board's concerns regarding the previous fill operations on the property. On May 20th, we also met with the Conservation Board to review the results of the geotechnical report and the conservation easement area. In general, they were satisfied with the results of the geotechnical report, and they also made a recommendation for the conservation easement, which is proposed on the western portion of the property and including the wetland, to be a site-specific conservation easement. The applicant will work with the town staff to finalize the language of the easement agreement. We've also received comments from the town engineer, LaBella Associates, and town staff, all of which appear to be technical and minor in nature. We will work with Wes and his team, as well as the town staff, to update the plans accordingly and to obtain their approvals. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. Well, I guess we'll start with Joe. Any questions for the applicant?
I don't have any information about the discussion, the most current discussion with the Conservation Board. I'm just looking at the documentation here from the May 5th meeting that says most restrictive. So if they've agreed to going to a site-specific, I think it'd be prudent to have a member of the Conservation Board with the town staff when the terms of that site-specific are actually developed and put together formally. So I trust that they made the right call, but I'd like to make sure the language reflects the conversation and what was agreed to, and I think the best way to do it is have a member of the Conservation Board there for the write-up. I don't know if they're included in the town staff. I'm not sure.
I'm just looking at the Conservation Board comments on May 6th meeting.
That's the only one I've got. Apparently they made a
So they haven't, I don't know that they've issued new ones from the meeting from last Tuesday.
Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe what they said was that they'll do site-specific, but they would want it to be the most restrictive, but allow for footpaths, I believe.
Allow for what? I'm sorry?
Footpaths.
Oh, okay.
So my interpretation is that the most restrictive was the natural resources conservation easement document. And the discussion was involving allowing the site-specific easement document to be the template, which the applicant and the town could work out the language. Really, there's nothing planned in the conservation easement area. It's just to allow future flexibility to install or create natural surface trails or something along those lines, but nothing is planned today. It's just to allow flexibility.
For the record, you have sidewalks shown on one side of each of the roads, and it directly ties into the Auburn Trail, which is also a very nice pedestrian feature, and I believe to the sidewalk on the other side of Rawson Road, which also goes down to the village and the trail. So
Correct.
I think there are plenty of pedestrian options at this subdivision. It'd be a nice place for a nice walkable unit community, so. Okay, sorry, was there anything else you're looking for questions?
No.
Okay. Joe, anything else? All right, Al?
Yeah, just one question on the common parking. It looks like there's 12 spots allocated and just typical observation of either townhouses or apartments that driveways are short, people tend to fill their garages, and next thing you know, people are parking wherever they can find.
Yeah.
Typically across sidewalks that cross the driveways. We see that at Silverton Glen a lot and other places with short driveways.
The driveways have been designed so that they have enough length beyond the sidewalk to park a car and then also a car in the garage as well.
Yeah, like 24 feet plus, or?
Correct.
Okay.
And they're all 2-car wide.
And they're all 2 cars, so you could technically have 2 cars in the garage and 2 cars in the driveway as well.
Okay.
Yeah, just a concern.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, perception and concern. Anything else, Al?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, Scott?
I guess I just have a comment on the soils. I appreciate you following up on what we spoke about last time. And I guess my question is regarding the second paragraph from your geotech, is that where he says the owner should retain an independent test agency, is the owner going to do that?
I would say yes.
Okay, I think that'd be really good. I mean, that's the way I'm familiar with doing it under these circumstances.
It's typical for site construction.
Coincidentally, I'm doing a project with people in your firm in the village of Pittsford right now, and we're doing exactly that. We have CME as the testing agency there. So I think that's a real good way to handle it.
Anything else?
Nope.
Yeah, other than the last comment I made about the trails and the opportunity in that community, the geotech was on my mind, and I appreciate all the data and information you have. I looked through the soil boring logs, and there's some pretty good compaction out there, and there's a lot of proof that there was some good compaction done on the berm itself, so I can't imagine there's going to be a problem with foundations, at least in the berm area, so I think good valid points from foundation design, and so that alleviates any concerns I had. Regarding sewers, I understand that the system is now going to be tied into the village sewer system. There's an agreement in place, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so that's out of the way and a relief, honestly. It's the most efficient situation, I think. Wes, any comments, thoughts?
Yeah, since you mentioned the sewers, would you be able to comment on the pump station, the size of the pump station, what that might look like out there once constructed?
Once constructed, I mean, we're working with your staff as well. It will be a submersible pump, so it won't be as large as, say, the pump station on County Road 9, which is a full above-ground lift station. It will be smaller than that. The actual footprint size it's being finalized as we speak, but it won't be the typical large 10 by 10 or 20 by 20 enclosure. A bunch of the mechanicals, since with it being a submersible pump or underground, there's only a smaller enclosure to be incorporated with this design.
Thank you.
Relatively quiet, I would assume, since it's underground, submerged.
Yeah, so Labella, we just did issue a letter today on the final subdivision application. We've gone through the plan set with a fine tooth comb. Things look to be in pretty good order. Some minor comments, looking for catalog cut sheet on the updated lights. We did recommend, I think we made this recommendation in the preliminary as well, that the town monitor and inspect the construction of the proposed private roadway, including installation of the stone sub-base, binder, course, and top course. And a note to that effect is on the grading plan, within the plan set. And then we did have a number of comments on the sanitary sewer pump station, the force main, and the engineer's report. And prior to, full disclosure, prior to releasing this letter today, we did share all the sanitary sewer comments with the design engineer some 10 days ago to 2 weeks ago. And then, yeah, just some follow-up stuff. So that's, I think we're in good shape based on what we have in front of us right now. And we did take a look at the foundation design letter and information there, and that's so helpful. I think that they really responded well to your concerns of the existing soils that were deposited on site. And I know there was a question about, we'll revisit a question here on, I know at one point the town of Victor had considered whether to look into acquiring that property for a potential highway garage. And there was one of the concerns that was expressed, or that was brought up about the soils, was that it would need to be reworked, maybe removed from the particular location that it sat, and they would have to rework it into the landscape and into the roadway. And so it wasn't a concern in terms of, oh, that soil is there, we can't use the site. It was just the cost. The primary reason I think the town didn't go for that site was not only the cost of the site, but also the cost to prepare the site for a highway garage. So it's not that the soil that's there was unusable.
Yeah, not that it was unsuitable, it was definitely salvageable and usable, but the cost.
Right.
So, okay.
Did Foundation Design do bores out there? Did they?
There's a lot of borings out there. Yeah. Wes has a copy, and it's a good 15 or 20 borings.
I don't, are we doing a resolution tonight?
We can, if everyone's comfortable doing it.
If we are, I would just recommend relative to the testing that be included as a condition.
What do you mean? It's been provided, a condition of what?
Well, they indicated that they will do the independent testing.
Oh,
Soils.
that would be during construction, I believe.
Okay.
Correct?
I just wanted to get it on the record that they committed to doing that.
Oh, okay. But regarding testing as a design parameter, it's there. I mean, that's what this is go by this testing for design of foundations. And then,
Right.
and then do the testing on site during construction.
Well, for example, if they're putting in a water main or a sewer main or a storm main or whatever, that's the time during which they'll be excavating out and they'll be able to see the soil, and they'll have someone there present testing that will do a compaction test.
Okay. All right. I think we
Just wanted to get it on the record, that's all.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So, any other comments from the board? No? All right. If the board is comfortable doing this, I have a draft resolution for approval of the site plan. Oh, Scott's got one? Okay, we'll go that way. All right, if anything comes up as we're going through this, please let me know, and we can address it accordingly. And got your comment notwithstanding. So, Bluestone Trail subdivision, 7200 Rawson Road, application 1FS 2025, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 16 of them. Now therefore be resolved that the final subdivision applications of Rawson Community LLC, major subdivision entitled Bluestone Trail subdivision, run by BME Associates dated April 22nd, 2025, received by the planning board April 22nd, 2025, planning board application 1FS 2025 be approved with the following conditions. Just for the public's sake, do we have extra copies of this? Lisa, for people that are here, or should they? Okay. If anyone's interested in a copy of this resolution, Marcia may be interested, but Lisa has several extra copies here.
That'd be great.
Much of one end or the other. Sure. Okay. Typically, if we're ready to do it before the meeting, Marcia, we would have extra copies on the back, but Lisa prepared it, unsure whether or not we would be moving ahead with it, so. If anyone else needs it, I think Lisa can make them available to town after the meeting, or tomorrow. So, okay, so conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. One is standard. Number two, that before the planning board chairman signs the approved film originals, the developer must submit electronic subdivision map files to the town. Number three, that section 4 of standard approval conditions for all subdivisions, major and minor, of the design and constructions be met. Number 4, the location of all conservation easement markers shall be shown on the final plans. Number 5, comments in a letter dated May 23rd, 2025 from the construction inspector be addressed. Number 6, that comments in a letter dated May 28th, 2025 from the code enforcement officer be addressed. Number 7, that the comments in a letter dated May 6, 2025 from the Village Department of Public Works be addressed. Number 8, comments in a letter dated May 28th, 2025 from Labella Associates be addressed. Number 9, the comments in a letter dated May 12th, 2025 from Stormwater Manager be addressed. Scott, your comment regarding
Yeah, I
soil
guess,
monitoring?
well, actually, it's
Okay.
indicated right here in the report that was submitted, and
Okay,
summary was presented, I just boxed it out.
okay, so that's, so,
There's specific testing intervals that are indicated there as well.
I guess I would say that's under an ongoing condition. So, I'll add it on at the end. Number 9, that the recommendations noted in the foundation design PC report regarding independent testing be performed during construction, be observed and incorporated into the construction plan. And Lisa, you can listen to the tape and get that. That's on the fly, sorry. Okay, ongoing conditions, we'll start with number 1, the major subdivision complying with the Town of Victor design and construction standard land development, including section 4. Number 2, should underground water conditions be encountered during construction, the developer is to address the encroachment and impact of the underground water conditions to the satisfaction of the town engineer. I'm not sure what underground water conditions, I thought it was an aquifer or artesian water conditions, but could be wrong.
Yeah, that's a condition that often, that we started instituting some years ago because there was an underground stream that was encountered. Yeah, so we've just kind of put it there as a catch-all.
Okay, it was a little vague in my mind, but as long as it catches all, I'm good with it. Number 3, the approved subdivision maps, including conservation easements, lot considerations, and lot line adjustments shall be submitted in digital form, AutoCAD 2002 or 2025 now, is it? Or latest version. Number 4, the town of Victor highway permits be obtained for installation of road A and B and water main connections. Number 5, the applicant shall be aware that yard trees are required per section 184-16C7 of the Victor Town Code. Number 6, submission of an architectural elevation which reflects architectural decisions made at the February 25th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. entitled Bluestone Trail Subdivision, received by the Planning Board February 25th, 2025. Number 7, at the request of the Planning and Building Department, a pre-construction meeting shall be held prior to the start of construction. Number 8, that a letter of credit for the project be established with the town of Victor town clerk prior to pre-construction meeting. And number 9, as I said earlier. And be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. So with that modified resolution, unless Ryan, you have any comments for the board?
We're all set.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move it.
Scott moves.
Second.
Joe seconds. All in favor? Aye. Carried 4-0.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
On behalf of the applicant, I would just like to say thank you for your guidance and input throughout this entire process. We appreciate it.
It's shaping up to be a good project.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is the formal agenda. I don't know if anyone else has anything before we adjourn. I think the next meeting is in 2 weeks, on a Tuesday. Yeah. So,
Back to normal.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Alan, Scott, all in favor? Aye. Have a great week, everyone.